Hey kids, ready? Are you ready for chapter 11 of Miss Osborne the Mop? It's the very end of the book. Let's see what kind of a surprise Jody's mom had for her. I wish I had my hair cut, thought Jody as she strained to get a glimpse of her face in the tiny dim mirror which hung over her dresser. It hadn't been cut since before she left home, and she did want to look nice for Mother. Moreover, this blue and white striped dress, which had always been one of her favorites, had changed shape or something while it hung in the closet. It bunched oddly around the middle and waved up and down around her knees, too short in some places and too long in others. But she forgot it a moment later. She was terribly excited about seeing Mother. She had been so busy the past month and so preoccupied with the mop, she hadn't really had time to remember how much she missed Mother and the others, and what a sad summer she was having. Now, as she wound down the mountain with Dill and Uncle John, she grew more and more eager. By the time the car pulled into the parking lot at the train station, she was bouncing with delight. And there was Mother. Jody flew to hug her before she was even down the steps of the Pullman car. "Jody," cried Mother, "how brown you are! And how you've grown! I hardly know you." And all Jody could do was grin. Uncle John took Mother's baggage to the car, and then he and Dill went off to the dentist, with Dill looking very mournful indeed. "Come with me and change the dentist into a mushroom," he invited Jody in a whisper as they parted. "I can't. You'll just have to be brave," said Jody, still grinning as she followed Mother in the opposite direction. "As long as we're down in the neighborhood, we might as well stop in and see Dr. Green," mused Mother. "He can check your eyes now, and we won't have to bother coming to town next week." Jody stopped dead still, and her hand flew to her glasses. She was a little scared to let Dr. Green see them. "Come along," urged Mother. "You'll get run over standing in the middle of the street that way." Dr. Green could see them in a few minutes, the nurse said. Jody waited with a thumping heart. Would Dr. Green be able to tell about the miraculous lenses? He hadn't noticed anything about them when he first gave them to her, but just suppose. And then the nurse said, "You can come in now, Jody." Jody stood up and felt herself turn pale with fright. She hoped she was tan enough to hide it. Dr. Green took off the glasses and laid them aside without even glancing at them. Jody breathed a sigh of relief. And then there were the bright lights and the charts. Jody obediently looked through this lens and that, made a little dog jump through a hoop, and caused 2 red balls to become 1. "Well," said Dr. Green in an amazed tone, "that's perfect. Your glasses have worked so well, I don't think you're going to need them anymore." Jody gasped, and her eyes grew round. What would become of her miraculous powers? What would happen to her wonder-working glasses? Dr. Green turned on his little revolving stool and picked up the glasses. "They did a fine job," he said admiringly. And then, somehow, the glasses twisted in his hands and fell to the floor. "Well, well, well," murmured Dr. Green, pushing at the splintered lens at his foot. "It certainly is fortunate you don't need them anymore. Goodness me, I haven't done a trick like that in years." Jody just stared. A little later, as they entered a department store and mounted the steps toward the floor where the girls' sports clothes were sold, Mother took Jody's arm and said, "Why so glum? You've looked like a thundercloud ever since we left Dr. Green's. I thought you'd be pleased about not having to wear the glasses any longer." "Oh, yes," said Jody, trying to look cheerful. I was glad not to have to wear them." "But I didn't want to see them broken," she thought dolefully. She and Dill had planned to do heaps of things with the glasses during the rest of the summer, and Daddy's birthday present. She could have gotten that with her magical powers. Most important, she had had a secret plan to make herself, well, not beautiful, but an improvement over fat, plain Jody Ransom. She had those horrid black frames off her nose, of course, she thought as she followed Mother over the thickly carpeted floor. But she had meant to do much more than that. It was dreadful to still be old, dumpy way she was. Well, she could have been by using the glasses, tall and thin and brown and interesting looking, like that girl over there. The one with the too long hair and the too short dress, and the girl with the woman who looked like Mom. Jody gaped at the girl in the mirror, and the girl in the mirror gaped back. Slowly, Jody moved toward her reflection. 6 weeks and lots of hard work in the sun had worked a sort of miracle on their own. For the girl in the mirror was tall and tanned, and quite definitely slender. If there had been a good looking glass in her room at Aunt Margaret's, she might have seen this happening. But there'd only been that little spotted one high right up over her head, and she'd only looked in it enough to see if her hair part was straight. "Will navy blue shorts do, or would you like plaid?" asked Mother from behind her. "Navy's fine," said Jody dreamily, "or plaid, either one." "You're a help," said Mother. In the restaurant, Jody ordered a tomato stuffed with shrimp salad, her very favorite. And for dessert, she was contemplating the blissful advantages of pecan pie over lemon cream tart, or vice versa, when Mother said, "And now for the surprise." Jody had forgotten the surprise. In fact, she had had so many surprises in the past few days, she didn't know whether she could stand another one. She looked at her mother cautiously. "We're going to spend another week or so in the mountains," said Mother, "and by that time Steve's camp will be over. So you and Steve and I are going to the beach. Roger will be there after a few days, and we're not sure, but we think Daddy will get home in time to spend the last 2 weeks with us too." "Oh, Mother!" cried Jody. "Oh, wonderful! Oh, beautiful!" Mother smiled. "There's just one other thing," she said, "and maybe you won't like it so much, but I thought we'd take Dill with us, if he'll come." Jody was amazed. "Not like it!" she exclaimed. "Why, that makes it perfect. I'd hate to leave Dill." "I thought you and Dill didn't get along so well," exclaimed Mother. Why, said Jody in bewilderment. But of course Mother was right. She didn't get along with Dill. And then she grinned. "I found out a lot about Dill this summer," she confessed. "He isn't being mean. He's just being friendly." And in the car late that afternoon, twisting back up into the cooler scented air of the mountains, Jody thought about all she'd discovered during the summer. About Dill, who was really the friendliest sort of person. About Mr. Poteet, who found living in loneliness and disarray exactly the sort of life that suited him. About the mop, who was only a dust mop and yet who had managed to change a summer for a good many people, whose little eyes and invisible ears could hear and see so much, and pointed out for human eyes and ears. Jody frowned. The mop and all that concerned her seemed so far away and long ago compared to here and now, and all the solid joys that laid before her. The sunny beach, and the ocean, and the fun of being with all her family. Maybe she'd just imagined that about the mop and the glasses and working miracles. Had all those things really happened? Maybe they hadn't. When she'd finally got a chance to tell Dill the sad news about the glasses, he hadn't seemed a bit upset. In fact, he hadn't seemed to know quite what she was talking about. "Gosh, it doesn't matter, does it?" he asked. "Aren't your eyes all right? Gosh, Jody, we're going to the beach." So perhaps she had invented it all in her head, made up the mop and her funny arms and legs and her imperious ways. But no, she couldn't have made up the mop any more than she could have made up Mr. Poteet and his awful cabin. But of course she had made up the mop when she had brought her to life. Jody's head began to whirl. She pushed her face up close to the window to smell the fresh mountain air. The light rain had begun to fall, hardly more than a heavy mist, and further up the road fog swelled and billowed in the curves. The trees along the highway looked washed and green on their dark trunks, and pale lichen glistened. And suddenly, above the sound of the car's engine, she heard the lovely and mysterious bird song she had heard the day beside the creek. Why, there must be thousands of those birds. One was singing in every bend of the road, the silvery fluting song that swirled down, and then began again. "Listen," said Uncle John. "The Veeries are really enjoying the rain. They hardly ever sing this late in the summer unless there's an afternoon shower like this. I love to hear them." A Veery? Jody told herself. Of course, she should have known. Veery was what it said. Veery, Veery. But to think Uncle John had known all along? If only she had thought to ask him. She wouldn't have had to take the Mop's word that it was a fruit-frosted cupcake. On the front seat, Dill suddenly sat up straight. "Happy at the ocean, happy at the beach, happy at the ocean, happy as a peach," he sang loudly. "Isn't that beautiful? I made it up myself." Its elegance and charm render me absolutely speechless," answered Uncle John. "But just how happy is a peach?" "Awful happy," answered Dill. Jody giggled. Who needed magic glasses? She and Dill had plenty of fun without them. And the world was a wonderful place, full of beautiful and exciting things. A place where you could get your heart's desire without even knowing you were doing it. "Happy at the ocean," caroled Dill, and Jody joined in. "Happy as a peach." The end. I hope you enjoyed Miss Osborne the Mop. Sometimes our imaginations help us kind of have magic. I don't know if Jody's magic was real or not, but it was a fun story. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon.